Coming up next on Another View, information for anyone who is or will be navigating a kid through college. The job market has changed, and simply getting a college degree may not cut it in terms of your son or daughter landing a career. According to our guest, Author William Holland, it's going to take your guidance and leadership as a parent to ensure that your child will be successful in the workplace. I'm Barbara Ham-Lee, taking your child from backpack to briefcase. Another View is next, right after this news from NPR.
Discussing today's topics from an African-American perspective, this is Another View.
Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to Another View. I'm Barbara Ham-Lee. Before we get started with today's topic, let me tell you about an event that's happening this evening that you may be interested in. Daryl Parker, Natalie Jackson, and Benjamin Lloyd Crump, the attorneys for the Trayvon Martin and Michael Brown families, are speaking at Norfolk State University tonight at 7 at the Douglas Wilder Center on campus. It's part of the Leadership Education and Development Speakers Series. It's free, it's open to the public, and it should be a very interesting conversation. So just in case you might want to swing by the Douglas Wilder Center on the campus of Norfolk State University at 7 p.m. tonight. And speaking of college, do you know if your child's college or university is actually preparing him or her for a career? Now, I know that sounds kind of crazy, but with today's challenging job market, are you sure your child would land a career upon graduation? Our guest today says it can happen, but parents, your intervention and guidance is paramount. Please join me in welcoming to Another View our William Holland, author of The Path from Backpack to Briefcase, A Parent's Guide. How you doing, Bill?
Very good, Barbara. Thank you for having me.
Oh, thank you for being here. So, when I picked up this book and started thumbing through it and reading some of the things and so forth, my first reaction was, oh no, he's telling people to be helicopter parents. And you address that in the book when you say, I'm not telling you to be a helicopter parent. What's the difference? What is it that you're looking for from parents in terms of guiding their college students?
Well, first of all, I don't want parents to be so concerned about their image of being overbearing that they abandon their responsibility when the child goes off to college altogether. Mm-hmm. Some of the worst advice that's out there tells parents, look, when your kid goes to college, it's time for you to sit back and let go. I'm trying to think, under what other circumstances would you hand an 18-year-old an instrument that's worth $250,000 and say, I hope you grow up as you use this? I think absolutely that's the wrong way to go. And furthermore, I suggest to you that what has happened to the job market makes it almost impossible in some circumstances for those kids to go through college, come out the other end, and be career ready. Mm-hmm. Your intervention is required.
So when I was growing up, and I'm a child of the 70s, okay, and it was not, in my household, it was not a question of if, it was a question of which school were you going to. But in today's environment, with the way that trades are coming back now and so forth, is it realistic for every parent to expect their child to go to college?
I don't think it's ever been realistic for every child to go to college, but I'm concerned about that debate that's happening, and it is happening, because most of the time when that debate happens, the people who are having it are talking about other people's children, not their own. Mm. And so from my perspective, if you think your child should go to college and that's something you want to support, I encourage you to do it. But I also encourage you to get involved very early, especially in the high school years and the first couple of years in college, so that they begin to develop the kind of profile they need so that when they come out the other end, they're going to be attractive to a wide range of employers, regardless of what they major in.
Mm-hmm. So I want to get into some specifics, but the whole notion that you brought up of using the 4 years that they're in college as 4 years of career search, if you will. Talk about that a little bit in terms of how that impacts what you should think about as you're looking to even go into college?
And the reason I put it out there like that, think of college as a 4-year job search, is that it used to be you could go to college, get a job, and join the middle class. That's changed. You can go to college right now, and there nearly 50% of all Americans have college degrees that don't require them. And so it's possible to come out and be severely underemployed. You'll hear a lot of people using that term. In order to get employment that meets your expectations, you need to start in your freshman year beginning to do the things that are required so that you can come out the other end smelling like a rose, so to speak. But the problem is that the kids at that age, 18, 19 years old, often don't have the maturity to make those kinds of decisions. And that's why I think parents really do need to be involved. And there's some very specific things they can do to make sure that they get their kid on the right track. Such as, I say the first thing is sit down and ask your student, do you want to go to college? And then, incidentally, listen to what they say. Because if they don't want to go, that's an early sign to you that you might want to avoid wasting a lot of money. Because if they don't want to go...
So you shouldn't try to talk them into it?
I think you should definitely try to talk them into it if that's important to you. But you don't disown them if they don't go. I mean, I really do think in the final analysis, that's their decision. And they'll do a lot better making their own decision relative to that than if you impose it on them. Oh, and incidentally, 75% of the kids that you ask that question to say they want to go to college. So the chances that you're going to get an answer that you like and you want to hear are pretty good.
So this whole idea of the parent being involved does not mean the parent making the decision, but more so asking the question?
Absolutely.
Is that right?
I got a chapter in here about how to be a good counselor to your student. And the first thing I say is listen to what they say and take it seriously. So the first question is, do you want to go to college? 75% of the kids, now 80, are going to say, I absolutely want to go to college. Why do you want to go to college? 80% of those kids will say, I want to go to college to get a good job. And then the magic question. Okay, noble objectives sound good to me. What do you have to do over the next 4 years to make a good job happen? That focus then gives you a platform and gives them an orientation so that they can begin to think of college as a vehicle to another end and not just something where they go through and mature as a person, which they should do, but they need to focus on why they're there, and that's very important.
And so it's beyond just learning the requirements for the field that you think you want to go into. There's more to it than that. And
not only is there more to it than that, as it turns out, 80% of the kids who go to college don't know what field they want to join. And I don't find that daunting at all. I think it's unrealistic to expect 18-year-olds to know exactly what they want to do. It helps if they do. And it helps if you can do some stuff to get them oriented in that direction. But if they don't, I don't think it's something to be overly concerned about. Oh, and incidentally, of those that know what they want to do, 50% change their mind anyway. So I don't think the end of the world has happened because they don't know what they want to do. But there are some very important things. For example, one of the things I encourage parents to do, and people find this funny and perhaps confusing, to think small.
What do you mean think small?
That's what everyone, what do you mean think small? I'm going to go out there and conquer the world. Think small in terms of small classes so you can get to know your professors better. And there are some real advantages to that I outline in the book. Think small so that you join small clubs and small groups where the opportunity for leadership is greater. And you don't have to kind of get in line and wait your turn. You can go and accomplish some things that employers are looking for by the time you graduate.
So let's talk about those things that employers are looking for.
Okay.
Because, as I was reading, you said if you're using these 4 years to prepare for that career, are there triggers that parents need to pay attention to that will indicate where the job market is going? Let me give you an example. STEM is the buzzword now, and it has been for the last couple of years. But I was trying to remember, when did STEM become the big thing, and how do parents know how to kind of forecast where their kid might be or what might be happening in the job market 4 years from now?
There is a very simple methodology in the book that you can follow. And I tell parents that when your son or daughter is visiting the campus that they think they might want to go with them to the Career Center. You and that student together. It's very important that you do it together. And ask the Career Center director or the professional staff, what companies, what organizations are visiting campus to hire students that look like mine? You say, okay, well, and you'll find out what they pay, but more importantly, you will get some literature called position descriptions from the things they leave behind to explain to students what they're looking for. Now, keep in mind, this is a freshman year. So in that freshman year exactly what the employers are asking for. And I call that doing what I call a keyword exercise, taking that position description. Let me see, they're looking for leadership, or they're looking for this degree, or they're looking for that degree. And then begin to craft your 4 years in response, in part, to what they're looking for. So that when you come out, you're able to look an employer in the face and say, when I first came on campus, I began to look at what you were asking for in hopes that at some point in time I get an interview just like this one. And you told me, go ahead.
I was going to say, and you can also continue to monitor that each year so that if things are changing or if there's another skill set that all of a sudden is popping up, then you can take that and you can prepare for it.
Absolutely. And let's just talk about the skill set for a second. There are really kind of two kinds of skill sets that employers look for. One tends to be less important than the other. And the less important one, believe it or not, is what you major in. That is less important than a lot of people think. Is it unimportant? I'm not saying that. It's not unimportant at all. But I can tell you, I went out and I did some research on my own when I was writing the book. And I asked myself the question, what are companies who have entry-level positions asking for? And I found essentially that they are asking for 7 characteristics that you want to make sure that at the end of your 4 years you can show. One was they're asking for leadership. You say, well, that makes sense. But I'm talking about leadership in the Google sense of the term. Google defines leadership, for example, as the ability to hear someone else's ideas and to help implement it even though it's not your own. That's what they call leadership, because they're smart enough to know not all good ideas are going to originate out of one person. And the person who can stand there and impose their will on the group, impose a bad idea on the group, isn't a very valuable employee. And there are a bunch of others that the ability to communicate, verbal skills, written skills. I look back and I remember when I was starting to write my dissertation, and I was shocked that I didn't know how to write. And I had to go through and learn how to write. Well, today, you almost can't get by if you don't have those communication skills well in hand.
Do you worry because of Twitter and other social media?
Not really. I worry about any population of people who don't learn to communicate effectively. And that means holistically, being able to use sentences, being able to understand nuances. I'll give you an example of a guy, and I hate to use it because I'm sure if I knew him, I would like him a lot. There is a professional athlete who is one of the greatest athletes, one of the most articulate athletes you will ever find. And he was in the NBA. He is the leading scorer in the history of the NBA, and nobody will hire him. Nobody. He can't beg a job. You say, why? Doesn't have strong people skills, which is one of the other skills that you need to develop. Teamwork is one of those. And so you ask yourself the question after a while, if these are the skills, how do I go about developing them? And I have some of that in the book. That's a part of picking your classes carefully, taking classes that are public speaking classes, taking classes that require that you write, taking classes that are writing classes themselves, composition classes. So at the end of that, and it's not going to be fun. I mean, I hated it. At the end of that, though, you walk out with a skill set that someone can use.
Don't you also, though, need to show employers that beyond what you did in the classroom, that you were involved, like you said, through other groups, through you became the president of your fraternity or sorority, or you did community service or things like that?
It's a part. The answer is absolutely. You need to do that, and so that's why in the book I talk about the 4 ways, the 4 arenas in which you develop these skills. And one of those arenas is called volunteer work. Go out and volunteer, because it demonstrates that you believe in something bigger than yourself. This is why I'm going to break this down to the kind of African American community specifically. We have always been told, as a people, some people have, don't send the girls to college. I've never heard that from African American women ever.
Yeah,
the parents, that's right. The parents, by and large, says, you go get your degree. The commitment of the African American community, where some people see poverty and backwardness, I see a group of people who have always believed in something bigger than themselves. And that accounts for the tremendous success that this population has had as they have gained access unfettered. If you break down the walls, what happens? African Americans immediately break through them. I mean, that's not by accident that happens. So, and that's why I think the Christian schools or the religious schools in particular have a great advantage. And I'm not arguing evangelical Christianity or any of that. But what I'm saying is, as I talk to the Williamsburg Christian Academy people and a few other people, I just attended the Chamber of Commerce, Christian Chamber of Commerce meeting in Virginia Beach not too long ago. And one of the things that they have is a commitment to something that is bigger than themselves. And when you have that kind of commitment, when a kid has that kind of commitment, it's easier for them to go to college and keep their head screwed on straight. It's just easier because one of the things I point out in the book, there are 3 things that determine success. Only 3. One of them you can't do anything about. Who you are, who your parents were, your socioeconomic status, how much money they made, how much money you have. Right now, as a student, you can't do anything about that. That's your socioeconomic status. The other 2 things you can do a lot about: how hard you're willing to work and what you choose to focus on. Those 2 things, with the parents helping, will send kids a long way toward success.
Hold on a second. 440-2665 or 1-800-940-2240 are the numbers to call to join our conversation. Do you have a student in college, or are you about to send a student to college? Is there information that you'd like to ask Bill Holland about, author of The Path from Backpack to Briefcase, A Parent's Guide? 440-2665 or 1-800-940-2240. Bill, in a lot of Black and brown families, there are still first-generation college students. So is it more difficult for those parents to be able to follow some of the things that you're talking about in the book because they have themselves not had the college experience?
I don't think the college experience is necessary in order for a parent to be an effective parent. I can tell you this. I almost get tears in my eyes when I think about my hometown. My mother went to the 9th grade. My dad went to the 6th grade. And out of that family came a Woodrow Wilson scholar, my sister who just completed her memoir, my brother who used to be the CEO of Ben & Jerry's and is now a venture capitalist, myself, I'm a PhD. And when my younger brother passed away, he was in law school. So that kind of upward mobility is not only possible, but parents don't need to have had the college experience themselves in order to rear successful children. And I would add that it's not just the Holland family in Albion, Michigan, where I grew up. I can look up the street and I can see Willie Bogan, who was a Rhodes Scholar from Dartmouth. I can see his brother Dan, who was the first city manager of a major city in the United States, and was just recently head of Dulham's chief of staff out in California. I can see Marion Wheeler, who was a lawyer for many years. My good friend Jess Womack. I could go on and on and on and on. There is not a college graduate, with the exception of Marion Wheeler's dad, who was a minister, who had a college degree, but there's not a college parent among them. And yet they were great advisors to their kids because their kids were committed to something bigger than themselves. And when they went to school, they understood clearly why they were there.
440-2665 or 1-800-940-2240. Give us a call. What questions do you have about making sure that your child will be successful and gain a successful career once they graduate from college? So beyond being the parent, having a good parent-child relationship, and by the way, how do you create that? Because when you're looking at an 18-year-old who's itching to get out, to be independent, to do their thing, what do you mean then by, I think your exact phrase is parent-student partnership?
Parent-student partnership. There are a couple of sections in the book that speak to that. One is the partnership. And the first rule in establishing an effective partnership is the ability to listen. Not talk, but listen. To understand what they are thinking and to at least show some measure of empathy or sympathy for it. Because without that, let me give you a classic example of that. I've been talking to a number of parents, and their favorite phrase is, "What in the world can you do with a major like that?" That's not a question. It's an accusation. And when you come in with that accusation, you immediately are sending a message to the student that's not positive. Let me give you an alternative to that. Rather than saying someone's majoring in history and you say, "What can you do with a major like that?" The response is, let's go and find out what kinds of companies are willing to employ history majors, how much they're paying them, and what they're asking them to do, and what are they looking for. So at least you have some informed information about where that degree might lead after 4 years in school.
You also mentioned that there were ways that you could tell that whether a particular college is actually interested in making sure your child gets a career. And beyond going to the Career Center, are there other things that you should look for beyond going to the Career Center and asking who's coming in?
Yeah.
Are there other things you can look for?
Yeah, I have another section in the book called How to Tell If Your College Takes Your Kid's Education Seriously. And let me just say that all colleges and universities say we take it seriously. The problem is that's not backed up either with budget allocation or with the way they behave. I'll just give you a statistic and then maybe say a little bit about how you can tell. The statistic is there was a survey in which they asked the provost, a cross-section of provosts in the United States, does your institution prepare students for success in the workforce? 96% of provosts said yes. Fewer than 26% of CEOs agreed. So
where's the disconnect?
Well, the disconnect, and that's a kind of a complicated thing. The disconnect is that the academy, the academicians, the faculty, have never fully accepted the notion that their job is to get you ready for a job. And that's just never been accepted. In fact, faculty will say we don't give academic credit for vocational pursuits. And so many colleges and universities keep a very strict separation between the academic world and the conferring of the degree around that and the more practical world about can you get a job. And that's the division that is steadfast. And that's another reason why I wrote the book, because it helps you get around that division.
440-2665 or 1-800-940-2240. Sherry joins us from Spring Grove. Hi, Sherry. You're on the air.
Hi, I had a couple of questions, but I'll make it quick.
Okay.
One question is, my daughter, she goes to ODU, and she's going for engineering, but she wants to teach math on the side or during the summer. Is that feasible, or should she stick with the engineering side?
Sherry, it's unclear to me why you see that as separate options. I don't quite understand why she couldn't do both. I can tell you there is some fool's gold to be mined in engineering and the other hard sciences. I saw an article a couple of years ago about a kid who had a master's degree in engineering from Stanford, and he was unemployed. And I called him, and I found him through social media and called him and said, "What's going on?" He says, "You won't believe it. It's not only am I unemployed, but I'm a graduate of Virginia Tech. And I got my degree in engineering, and I was number one in my class. I got a master's degree at Stanford, and I still am having difficulty hanging on to a job." You might say, well, there was something wrong with them. No. Engineers get terminated just like everybody else. That's number one. And number two, the job market has changed so dramatically that unless you understand that, my book, From Backpack to Briefcase, will help you do it, that you will be subject to the same forces. So anything she can do to broaden herself, I think, is a good idea.
Okay, Sherry, you had one other question?
I did, but this was more important, so thank you so much.
Okay, thank you. Thank you for your call. We appreciate that. If you're just joining us, we're talking about ways parents can help navigate their child from college to a successful career with R. William Holland, author of The Path from Backpack to Briefcase, A Parent's Guide. 440-2665 or 1-800-940-2240. Genevieve joins us from Norfolk. Hi, you're on the air.
Hi.
How are you?
Very well, thank you, Barbara. I'm a huge fan of your show. Thanks for taking my question.
Thank you. Go ahead.
So my question is for Mr. Holland, in that you were talking about being prepared, like taking classes that prepare you for an interview with the companies that are looking for entry-level positions, like taking classes on like composition or public speaking. But in my experience, I'm a recent graduate from 2010. Those classes are usually already required to graduate with a bachelor's degree. And so my question is, like, there's extra information that parents can find out for helping their kids with success through high school and college, like internships. Can you, like, enlighten the view on that?
Okay. Thank you, Genevieve. We'll take we'll answer your question. Go ahead, Bill.
Sure. Genevieve, you are, of course, absolutely correct. And one of the things I talk about in the book is the importance of internships. And there are a number of things. There are four arenas. I didn't finish that conversation. There are four arenas that you can look to make sure that your student is taking advantage of all they need to take advantage of. One is their classwork. Make sure that the classes they take, in fact, help them prepare, whether they're required or not. And when they're required, that's a good indication that your school is taking the issue seriously. The second thing is internships. The third thing, extracurricular activities, and finally, opportunities to volunteer. Those are the four arenas that are available to students most readily for them to prepare themselves for the job market.
440-2665 or 1-800-940-2240. Our phones are lit up, so if you get a busy signal, just call back. Tyrell joins us from Portsmouth. Hi, Tyrell. You're on the air.
Hi. I was just calling to point out that not everybody needs to go to a four-year institution and earn a college degree in history or political science and go on to law school. There are several vacancies right now at the Norfolk Naval Shipyard because we don't have enough people who are certified to be welders in the country. There's an article that hit the internet not too long ago down in Texas whose parents were professors, but he got a $140,000 a year job just being a welder. So trade schools are not to be overlooked, and particularly as we move into higher-end manufacturing in this country.
Great, Tyrell. Thanks for your call, and I'm going to get Bill to respond to that.
Well, Tyrell, thank you. Not only do I agree, I think there is great wisdom in what you say. Once again, not everyone needs to go to college. I would even argue not everyone should. And the only request I make of the society as a whole is make sure that when you have that conversation, you have it about your kids as well as other people's kids.
Mm-hmm. Well, and that's the thing. If you have parents who both went to college and say their child wants to be a welder, I mean, is there that kind of social barrier, I guess, that parents may have to come to grips with in terms of, I went to college, of course my child's going to college, but it may not be the case.
Yeah, there is a lot of that, and I would just encourage parents that when an 18-year-old's got a lifetime to live. In fact, I talk about that in the book, in the last chapter, the epilogue, a chapter called Late Bloomers. And in fact, our whole society doesn't deal with that population very well. But the truth of the matter is, not every 18-year-old wants a college degree or necessarily should want a college degree. And if they should happen to change their mind, as it turns out, they have plenty of time to do that. But the important thing is that they're focused on something and they're not just living the life of Riley.
So I want to go back to more tips for parents in terms of how they navigate this journey with their college student without being a helicopter parent, without being overbearing, but more of a guider.
Yes.
Can you give us some more tips on that?
The first thing I suggested is that you begin to understand what's required. Go to the Career Center with your student to understand what jobs are available. And then as they progress through college, that you keep that conversation open. And the more you have those kinds of discussions, the more you do check-ins around what's going on and are you comfortable with where you are, and you listen carefully to what they have to say, I think you'll find that you're in good shape.
Okay. 440-2665 or 1-800-940-2240. Barry joins us from Elizabeth City. Hi, Barry. You're on the air.
Oh, hi. I catch you every Friday, and I really enjoy all the topics that you do. My wife and I, neither one of us are college graduates.
Mm-hmm.
But our son, we sat down with him after he was getting out of high school and said, what would you like to do? We developed a plan with him and how he was going to proceed to do that. Set goals for him, and also being that I'm retired military, didn't have a hell of a lot of money. We found out how he could get student grants, went through the Blue Book. He went through college, did very well, got his degree in arson investigation, is doing well. We supported him all along the way, but we were there when needed.
I like that. I like how he says we were there when needed.
Yeah, that's terrific. I go contrast that, and I congratulate you on having not only been a good parent, but also a smart one. Contrast that to not having those kinds of discussions with your 18-year-old and just letting them meander through college or being directed by the university itself. You latched on to two things. One, you obviously, your student and the parents were willing to work hard. Rationale number one or reason number one that you'll succeed. And the second was you got them focused. And it's funny how those two things work out in the end.
Okay. Thank you, Barry, for the call. Kim joins us from Newport News. Hi, Kim. You're on the air.
Hi, how are you?
Okay.
I love your show. Thank you for taking my call.
Thank you so much.
Dr. Holland, I have a question. I'm one of seven children. Neither of my parents went to college. I'm the only one that did graduate from high school. I'm a PhD student now, and I'm wondering, I didn't really have the support with the family and from the parents, and I sort of did this on raw conviction. And there are several times where my own family members have said, are you still in school? So, what's your message to students who don't have the parental support, who just don't have those three items? They're just going on raw conviction.
That's a great question, Kim.
Yeah.
Again, I go back to the word I used before. Well, first of all, let me say congratulations to you.
Absolutely.
Because that is extraordinarily difficult, and it's just wonderful. I would say two things. Just make sure you treat your children better than you were treated, and that will be its own reward. Secondly, though, the advice that I would give to people who are in that circumstance is stay the course, because you are focused on something that the society as a whole believes in. You know it, and the people around you know it. And sometimes people will discourage you from still going, and they'll say things that are hurtful and discouraging, and that's unfortunate. But stay the course, and there's a good chance it's going to work out.
Mm-hmm. Well, to that point also, is it important for students and in this while they're in school to find a mentor? If you can find a mentor, that would be very important. Mm-hmm. I found a mentor, a gentleman by the name of Herb Garfinkel, who took me as a student athlete. I went to Michigan State on a football scholarship. And I was just absolutely mesmerized by him as an instructor. And he really took me under his wing and was almost single-handedly responsible. He and George Will, I might add. I studied under George Will as well for getting my PhD. And that was just an absolutely wonderful experience, and it was a major reason for my academic success. That being said, if you can find a mentor, wonderful. If you can't, go it alone. Okay. Lisa joins us from Virginia Beach. Hi, Lisa. You're on the air. Hi.
I just wanted to throw something out. I don't have a question, but I have a comment. That I'm an old lady now, but I've never forgotten this. When I was in grade school, I lied to somebody about what my dad did for a living. He was a plumber. Oh. And lo and behold, as it always does, it came back around to him. And so he sat me down one evening and he said, "Why are you ashamed of what I do?" I said, "Because, so-and-so goes to the office and they do this and they do that." And he said, "Let me tell you something." He said, "To make this world go around, somebody has to do a job for everything." He said, "It all has to work together, because I'm going to tell you something. If I were so-and-so's father and their toilet got plugged up, don't you think that I wouldn't be the most important man in their lives today?"
Very good point.
And I thought, wow. But that has stuck with me during my entire life. So, even the janitor, they're doing a very important job. They're doing as important a job as, the tax auditor or anybody else.
You're absolutely right, Lisa. We appreciate your call.
Yeah,
thanks for calling.
I certainly appreciate that. And if you were listening, Lisa, I started the conversation by talking about my parents and how far they got in school. And I don't think any time during that conversation I said in any way that I was ashamed of them. In fact, quite the contrary. My dad had a hospital wing named after him, and when he passed away, they named a park after him.
Oh, wow.
So and he overcame a lot of personal difficulties. So not only do I agree with what you said, I applaud your conviction that you've maintained in coming forward and continuing to say it.
So the pendulum, it's so interesting to me that education it swings both ways, because at one point, having a trade, being able to work with your hands, being able to do engineering, STEM type things was the thing to do. Then it swung completely to, you have to have a college degree. Is there any balance? Do you ever see it kind of coming together in the middle so that everyone has options, but that there's not so much pressure to go one direction or the other?
Brenda, Barbara, I'm sorry.
That's okay.
I think that's an excellent question. And the answer is the pendulum may swing back, but it's not going to stop. And so we will forever in society, whether it's the American society or elsewhere, and I might add, the issues that we're talking about are issues that are relatively universal. The issues we are talking about will continue to be with us. And people, especially in a modern society, as they make their way, are going to have to make personal decisions about where they want to fit in. And one of the nice things about a democracy is that you can make those decisions. And so I encourage people, regardless of what they want to be, remember the two most important things are your willingness to work hard at whatever you want to do and choose something to focus on of which you can be proud. And that's what several people have talked about here today.
So if you are at a school and you go to the Career Center and maybe they don't have companies that come on campus, or they're not of the quality that you're looking for, or so forth, or there may be some other indicators that maybe this school is not as focused on my getting a career when I get out of here. Is it better to hang in there and do some other things to make sure that you're strong, or should you leave?
If you can leave, leave. I don't think there's any excuse today for universities, colleges and universities, not focusing on helping students translate what they know and what they learn into a successful lives for themselves. I think that ship has already sailed, and universities that refuse to do that are going to be held accountable at some point in time. Stop and think about what's happening. And education today costs an incredible amount of money. People, 80, there was another survey, 85% of parents with 17-year-olds and younger said they plan to send their kids to college because that was one way they could make their lives better. Under what circumstances dare universities to say that's not our job? I mean, just tell people that's not your job. And there are a couple that do. Reed College, for example, out west, says very specifically, don't come to Reed because we're going to help you get a job. Come to Reed because you want to learn. So, that's terrific. And it just so happens Reed's a terrific school. And as it turns out, the graduates from there are highly sought after. But they make no promises. But there are a bunch of other schools, and you see the ads on television. I won't say it's criminal, but it is shameful.
I will, the producer just reminded me that you've only named 3 of the 7 characteristics that employers are looking for. In the last 5 minutes we got, what are the other 4?
Well, first of all, it varies from employer to employer.
Sure.
And I'm going to try to remember them all, and that may be hard.
Okay.
But there's leadership, there's communication, there's teamwork, there's problem solving, which is probably the granddaddy of all skills. There's something called self-improvement, the ability to, or the desire to want to improve. And I'm sure there are a couple of others. I can't remember them all now, but I would say to the audience 2 things. One, if you want me to come and talk to your group, visit my website, crackingthenewjobmarket.com, and just contact me. And I'll be more than happy to come and talk to your group about this. Or we are forming a new company now, which I'm not ready to announce fully, in which we are going to take this set of concepts and ideas nationwide.
Okay.
So, maybe I'll think of the last 2 before I get off the air.
So we've got about 3 minutes left. What would your advice be to a senior in college right now that may not have done an internship or, showed a leadership position or things of that sort? They've got a semester left. What can they do?
Get busy. Start by finding out who's coming to campus to recruit students with your background. And then, and I tell you how to do this in the book, then begin to put together a resume of things that you've done that in some way are responsive to that. And if you start searching your background, for things you've done, experiences you've had, you'll be surprised at how many of them actually fit.
Translate. Mm-hmm.
That's right. Mm-hmm. But you need to start with companies that are interested in you because you have a certain characteristic, a major or something like that. There are some companies, for example, let me give you a couple of companies. Mm-hmm. Disney has a summer internship program for their cruise ships and their amusement parks, and they hire some incredible number of kids, and they don't require any a particular degree, but they do require a lot of the soft skills that I'm talking about. And the other one is Enterprise Rent-A-Car. That really is probably the most significant recruiter of college talent in the country. There are some places you can begin to look.
Okay. And if you are a freshman, less than a minute, and you're a freshman, what should you be doing right now?
Visiting that career center and understanding what companies are looking for, and then begin to plot out your 4 years in such a way that you develop that kind of profile.
Okay. R. William Holland, the author of The Path from Backpack to Briefcase, A Parent's Guide. Tell us the website again where they can find your book.
The website is called crackingthenewjobmarket.com. And you just click on there and sign up to be notified when we form the new company, or to contact me to come and speak to your group. I'll be more than happy to do that.
Okay. Thank you so much for joining us here on Another View today. We appreciate and lots of information for parents and for students to think about. And we will be right back.
I am Brother Cornell West, and when I'm in Hampton Roads, I make it a point to listen to Another View with my dear sister Barbara Ham Lee on WHRV-FM.
And we thank you very much, Dr. West. Actress Ingenue Ellis has spent a large part of her time on the big screen, transporting us from one place in time to another. In the blockbuster film Ray, she portrays Marianne Fisher, the first female singer to join Ray Charles's band. In Men of Honor, it was her character's question, "Why do you want to be a diver so badly?" that sparked Cuba Gooding to respond, "Because they said I couldn't have it." And in The Help, it was Eula Mae Davis's arrest that sparked the Maids of Jackson to finally tell their stories. Now Ellis is starring in the BET miniseries The Book of Negroes and is on her way to Hampton Roads for a special screening. She shares her thoughts about this historic look back in time with our Lisa Godley.
Whether she's portraying a wife, a girlfriend, or a heroine, Ingenue Ellis has the amazing ability to take us there.
Why do you want this so badly?
Because they said I couldn't have it.
Now the versatile actress is giving us a taste of early American history in the new BET miniseries, The Book of Negroes.
It was late in the afternoon of April 23rd, 1775, and I had taken back my freedom. I seem to have trouble dying. By all rights, I should not have lived this long. I am Aminata Diallo.
Throughout her career, Ellis has captivated us with her portrayal of strong women, and she continues to do so in her role as Aminata Diallo.
She comes as a child, and she survives the Middle Passage and comes to America, to South Carolina, to a plantation there. Aminata knew who she was when she was 11 years old. She knew what she wanted to be, and she lived her life as that. And never let anybody, even somebody who would put a whip to her back, tell her that she was anything other than better or the same or equal to that person. She's a remarkable woman.
Because Aminata can read and write, she is recruited by the British to record the names of the African Americans who side with England during the Revolutionary War.
Our Navy plans to move all Negro loyalists to Nova Scotia, where they will be free.
Nova Scotia? Not London.
Nova Scotia is a British colony.
And in this Nova Scotia, will we be free?
Entirely.
The British promised freedom and land to those people who were loyal. And these people were called the Black Loyalists. And so all of these people, their names, their ages, their professions, were written in this archive, in this ledger, and it was called the Book of Negroes. And my character was the recorder of the ledger. I sat with the people. They told me their stories.
Even though the British promises fall short, Aminata perseveres. Ellis says she loves playing difficult roles and describes Aminata's character as one of the most difficult she's ever done.
I was playing someone who's very, very different from me, even though she's a black woman. She's an African woman. She's a woman of the 18th century. So every day that I came to work, I had to put on those clothes. I had to put on her. And very challenging, but it was a joy.
The award-winning actress who majored in African American studies in college is excited to see this piece of American history come to life. She's hopeful people will open their hearts and minds and not see the Book of Negroes as just another slave movie.
When I hear people say that, it really makes me upset because it sort of suggests that people who were enslaved had no humanity. And they were already stripped of that humanity by white supremacy. So when we say that we don't want to hear another slave story, we're stripping them again. This woman is unlike any heroine that has ever been on American television, ever. And she is an African woman. And I think that is a phenomenal story. And I think when people want to close their eyes to it or don't want to hear it, it does a disservice to who we are, and it sort of limits us.
Ellis says knowing who you are is key and has helped shape her career. And she's quick to tell young people who are interested in acting that being your own person is the most important thing on your resume.
You have to find out who you are before you do any of this. Because if you don't know who you are, if you don't know your values, if you don't know what is important to you, then you will become the creation of someone else. There's no one in the world like you. No one. No one who's going to play a part like you. So understanding and knowing that you are your own person, you are your own creation, and not be bowed by outside forces who will try to tell you that you should be something else. It's one of the most powerful things that you can have in doing this. It preserves your soul, it preserves your spirit, and it also makes you a better actor.
For Another View, I'm Lisa Godley.
And a special screening of the Book of Negroes will take place this coming Wednesday, February 4th at 6:30 p.m. in Ogden Hall on the campus of Hampton University. I have the pleasure of serving as moderator of the talkback discussion following the screening. The event is open to the public, and I'd sure love to see you there. And the Book of Negroes miniseries airs on BET February 16 through 18 at 8 p.m. I'd also like to invite you to join me next Thursday night, the 5th of February, at the Slover Library at 7 p.m. I am one of their distinguished guest speakers. That's what they call the series. And I'm going to be talking about the history of African Americans in television news. So it should be an interesting discussion. Please come on down. It is free. It is open to the public. And don't forget, you can listen to past episodes of Another View by going to our website, anotherviewradio.org, and downloading the podcast. And sign up for our eView newsletter, a once-a-week reminder of upcoming shows. And we're on Facebook, so be sure to like us. Next week on Another View, a conversation with Janet Cheatham Bell, author of Not All Poor People Are Black and Other Things We Need to Think More About. It's a series of essays that will truly give you food for thought. Our theme music was composed and performed by Jay Sennett. Lisa Godley is our show producer. Victor Bowen is our audio engineer. And Chantel Davis answered our phones. Thanks for joining us. Make it a fabulous weekend. And let's get together again next Friday at noon for Another View.